time for the fantasy football playoffs. So picking the right players to put in that flex spot can mean all the difference between winning and losing. We're going to look at who has the best matchups, who's hot going into the end of the season, and who has that upside that you crave that could help you win in the postseason. So let's count down. Let's start at number 8, and I'll go with the guy who's just coming off a monster game. That's David Montgomery of the Bears. He had looked like he might be kind of a set it and forget it RB2 going into the year because we knew he was going to get all the volume, all the touches in that backfield. But Chicago's offense has been kind of a mess, going back and forth between quarterbacks. And Montgomery himself, even though he was getting the touches, getting a lot of looks, but he just wasn't doing much with them. Well, things didn't change because in the last 2 games since he came back, he has averaged 6.25 yards per carry with 3 touchdowns in those 2 games. And you look ahead to week 14, 15, and 16 when it matters. The schedule couldn't get much better. Goes against Houston, one of the worst run defenses in the league, going against Minnesota, and then there's Jacksonville. So David Montgomery, if there was any question, he definitely answered those questions last week. Hopefully you were holding on to him, but he's definitely somebody you want to keep in your lineup the rest of the season. Number 7, a guy that I've been mentioning on waiver wire articles and videos for the last couple of weeks, and that's Lazard. If you remember back in the first 3 weeks of the season, he looked like he was going to be a monster and then missed several weeks. It's been a slow return, hasn't really done a whole lot since then, but in those 3 games, you've noticed he's at least been more involved. More importantly, he is the wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers, and the schedule, it's going to get even better as we go on. Week 14 gets Detroit. Week 15 is Carolina, and week 16 is Tennessee. So there's a good chance we might see that breakout game again from Lazard. Number 6, a guy who has suddenly reemerged out of nowhere. It's T.Y. Hilton, also a hot waiver wire pickup heading into the fantasy playoffs. 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown in week 13. That follows up what had been his best game of the season in week 12. He's getting hot at exactly the right time, and the schedule isn't too bad, going against the Raiders and then the Texans, which was just toasted by them, and then Pittsburgh, which of course is a really good defense, but they're a really tough run defense. They have given up a fair amount of points to receivers. So Hilton went from basically being waiver wire fodder to all of a sudden a guy that you could plug in at wide receiver 3 the rest of the way. Number 5, talk about reemerging Corey Davis after years of hope and, hoping that he would finally live up to his draft stock. It looks like the breakout is real. Corey Davis, of course, in week 13, had season high with 11 catches, 182 yards, and a touchdown. But that wasn't his only significant game of the season. We've seen it in spurts, but now is the time where he's going to catch fire at the right time. With Jonnu Smith still nursing an injury, could be more targets heading to the wide receivers, and Jacksonville, Detroit, Green Bay, that's a pretty good matchup. So you've got to like Davis's chances. He's going from a guy who now all of a sudden seems like you have to start him every week. Number 4, this one's a little risky, but I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins. You've got to like the fact that it looks like he is going to be the lead back going forward. Gus Edwards had his moments, but he also has been ineffective as of late. I feel like Dobbins is the one that they're going to try to trust and establish him on the ground. And luckily, the schedule also favors him. So Dobbins is going to get it go against the Browns, the Jaguars, and then the Giants in week 16. The Ravens are going to try to slug it out and win these games to try to make the playoffs at this point. And I feel like Dobbins is going to be the horse. Mark Ingram is somebody you can pretty much just ignore at this point. Number 3, I can't say enough about Cam Akers. Talk about him each and every week, and it's finally happening. He is the lead back in LA, going from 84 yards and a touchdown in week 12 to 72 yards and a touchdown in week 13. But more importantly, he got the lion's share of the carries. Darrell Henderson is no longer eating into his targets and or touches in the backfield. So Akers is a guy that you definitely want to not just add, but plug in. Gets the Patriots in week 14, but then the Jets in week 15, and then Seattle in week 16. Again, not great for a running back, but not terrible either. But he's always one play away from making it happen, kind of like what we had seen from Miles Sanders last year. And then number 2, if you've been stashing Antonio Brown, this is what you've been doing it for. I do like AB's chances. We don't always know exactly where the targets are going to go in Tampa Bay, but you kind of have to start all 3 of the receivers. Antonio Brown's been a little more up and down, and of course not joining the team until halfway through the season. Look at the schedule. They get Minnesota, Atlanta, and Detroit in weeks 14 through 16. All three of those defenses are bottom 8 against wide receivers. Antonio Brown could pay off huge for those who added him and stashed him. But my number 1 pick, going to go with Jonathan Taylor. That's right. This is what we've been waiting for. This is why you drafted him. Hopefully you didn't drop him out of rage. Jonathan Taylor is taking the lead in this backfield, and he's got 90 rush yards in back-to-back games for week 12 and 13. It looks like he'll keep that going, and a really nice schedule with the Raiders and then the Texans, which are one of the worst bottom 3 run defenses in terms of fantasy points allowed. Steelers in week 16, not going to lie, it's not a great matchup there, but if you made it that far, you're in the championship game probably anyways. So he helped you along the way, and he still has touchdown upside. So it doesn't mean he's necessarily an auto sit either, but Jonathan Taylor might finally pay off for those who drafted him so early and have been disappointed. He's a flex player, no longer to worry about. He's somebody that you must start. All right, guys, hopefully this helped you. If you have any questions, of course, leave us a comment here. Who are your flex players that you're thinking of that might help you win in the postseason? Leave us a comment here. And of course, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. Good luck throughout the fantasy playoffs.